oh, I was like, ding, ding, ding.
You want to take responsibility for your life. I got me here, I can get me out of this.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Aydian here. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today is a very special episode because we have a really good friend of mine here and we're going to talk all about their book and about their identity and all that type of stuff. So I want to introduce you all to my good friend La Espiritista.
And La Espiritista is basically, in Spanish, means the spiritualist, so it is the medium between the spiritual world and the physical world. Espiritistas do the hard work of healing work, but also like the mediumship, so like they sometimes contact the dead, so if you have past loved ones, they can channel. They're the channelers, they're the messengers. I do poetry. That's my way of channeling, and I go by they, them, their pronouns. In most spaces, it kind of shifts. I do that for safety.
I have them here because we met at the Philly Trans Health Conference.
Yeah, September 2017.
And then you came up here and actually you did a ritual for Jenny Lee when we were trying to get pregnant.
I came and we did an exchange, so I did a ceremony for Jemaya, which is an Orisha in African spirituality. It can also be found in Latinx spirituality because there's African spirituality in Latinx spirituality, so yeah.
Really, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And so I think it's like really interesting to just have different identities to just share within, because like trans is an umbrella. It's not just one way, you know what I mean? And I think that's one thing that I try to explain with my platform, because so many people just see me on a stage or they see me talking and they're just like, oh, okay, so trans means you're born this and you're born in the wrong body, and that means, you know, all trans men are going to look like this person in front of me. What has been your kind of discovery of, because you're on testosterone, you have top surgery, but you identify as non-binary, but you also identify as transmasculine.
No, I don't identify as transmasculine because I realized when I went to Philly Trans Wellness Conference one year, I met a person. This person identified as black. They were on testosterone.
Okay.
They dressed very femme, and I remember meeting them and I was just like, there's only trans mass spaces and they're trans femme spaces. I'm like, I guess I'm gonna go to the trans mass space because I was assigned female at birth and now I'm on testosterone. They're like, I don't go to the trans mass space. They told me, they're like, because I'm not masculine. And I'm like, oh, I was like, ding, 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 like, I don't need to be masculine and be on testosterone, even though I do need to take accountability that, like, I do and we all do have masculine and feminine energy.
Totally.
But when they said that, something rang in my head that's like, oh, like, I don't need to go to the trans mass space because I'm not transmasculine. So I identify as gender fluid, as non-binary, and two-spirit in regards to whatever the language my indigenous ancestors had. So it's just an umbrella term for those people who didn't identify as male or female.
So that's how you discover that you can be exactly who you want to be and take whatever hormones you want, but still identify how you want. How does the queer community treat you as you are? Because I get treated a certain way as I am, as a more binary, transmasculine person. I find that different groups within our group treat people differently. And I just think it's really interesting that we're all under this umbrella, yet we all tend to kind of go off into our own little spaces and then try to prove our transness or prove our enoughness or prove our, like in the transmasculine world as trans men, I see a lot of people trying to prove like their manliness, you know what I mean? And to me, like, I'm just not really that interested in anybody proving anything to me because I don't feel like it needs to be proven that you're a man. I see a separation between trans femme, non-binary, transmasculine, then I see people arguing over like, well, you can't be non-binary and you can't be this, but you have to be that, and if you look this way, then you have to identify that way. And I'm just really curious how you, somebody being non-binary but taking hormones and expressing your femininity, but also knowing that you have this identity within you that does have a really high male, like masculine energy, how the queer community views you based on all those things.
It really depends what space I'm in and who the person is and how I'm being read at the time.
Interesting, okay.
Because I think, like, you know, I can go to a queer space that's like, I don't know, like maybe it's a lesbian space and they look at me and I'm read as like a gay male now because I'm often read as a gay man of color now, and it's like that's wrong because I'm into all genders. Like my sexuality would be, I just use queer because it's an umbrella term.
Yeah.
But I'm into all genders. And I'm read as a gay male often, so like, you know, I might be treated like I'm not welcome in like that's a really simple one. Like lesbian community, automatically I'm not really welcome in those spaces anymore.
I'm read as a gay man a lot as well, so that's interesting because when I step into lesbian spaces, it's like, what are you doing here? Like, see you later, bye. And I'm like, wait a second, I used to be you. I was you at one point.
There's a femininity to me, like when I'm expressing myself, so it's like, I'm like, I can pass as a straight male, and then my partner's like, nah.
So do you think in general you are accepted within the queer community?
I will say some spaces. I've been definitely, as a person of color, finding more solace finding other queer trans people of color, but also with my identity as Latinx, and not just Latinx, like, you know, there's Latinx people who are Afro-Latinx or white Latinx people. I'm very mixed Latinx, so I feel very much in the middle of so many worlds. Not only in my gender and sexuality, it's like everything.
Like the identity, just you as a being, as a person.
Very middle mixed in that gray zone.
As like a white person, like, we don't really take on our past cultures. For me as a white person, like sometimes I feel lost because I'm just like please don't have our whole history just be like terrible.
White people are all lumped into one category too, and you're all not the same white people.
Yes.
You're all from different regions too.
Yeah.
And where did your ancestors come from? And I'm not gonna speak like I know it all either, because I'm just starting to discover my ancestry. Like for a very long time, I was just like, we're all Latinx. We're all Latinx people, but it's very different histories depending what region you're from. So I'm just in the beginning of that, like that tip of the iceberg.
Like so this last like St. Patrick's Day was kind of the first day that I was like, you know what, like I have an Irish history. I'm really just stepping into that. So I think it's really cool that like you've already done that work, that you're continuing to do that work, that you're trying to also put out, you know, a healing vibe, which I'm all about. And I'd love to like introduce everyone to your book that's coming out, because I think I'm really excited about it. I like low-key have my own copy, but it's not out yet, but it's coming out. And all the information will be in the description box below. Can they pre-order right now, right?
Yeah, they can pre-order from my website, which is laespiritista.com, and that's spelled, I can spell it out, it's LAESPIRITISTA.com.
Where did it come from? The inspiration? I know butterflies are a big theme, transformation.
Yeah, so it's called Butterfly Una Transformación, and I made it very much how we're talking today. Butterfly, very like everyone can understand that. Una transformación, it's pretty easy, I guess you can get it. A transformation, and in regards to my Spanish and Latinx heritage. But Butterfly Una Transformación is a poetry book. I like to say a book of poetic prayers, so kind of the idea of reclaiming spirituality for queer and trans communities. And the book is 4 phases, like the butterfly. It's release, renewal, retreat, rebirth, because we don't want to be boring and say egg, larva, cocoon, and butterfly. It's release, renewal, retreat, rebirth. And in these phases, there's different lessons to be learned, different healing lessons, right? Like release is really channeling Jamaya. It's about going back to your origins. What do you need to grieve? What do you need to let go? What do you need to feel? Because this is like, it's time to like transform. You need to change. You need to feel that shit.
You need to face it.
So a lot of those poems will have references and to the ocean because of her.
Very cool.
Going back to the origins. Renewal is that phase like when you're a caterpillar, the new senses, you're just coming back to life. It's all about sensuality. So like tasting new things. It's about like seeing new things, just the newness of it, all. And that is really channeling another deity called Oshun, who's all about like the luxurious things of life. She also has a dark side. You were saying envy. Envy's her dark side.
Okay.
Retreat is about death. When the butterfly goes into the cocoon, it literally turns into mush and it dies. So it's really about like death is part of life. Like through death comes new life. That's a poem of mine too. But it's about like just letting those old parts of yourself die so you can rebirth and come into a new being. So really it's like a spiritual framework of transformation in these poems. And I chose the blue morpho butterfly as a symbol because the blue morpho butterfly can be found in the Amazon in Peru. But the blue morpho butterfly, which I didn't know until actually after I wrote the book, was that it's the trans butterfly.
Really?
It is the trans butterfly. Yeah, so it is not only like the butterfly of my ancestry, but it's also the trans butterfly.
That's cool. What's your favorite poem in there?
So I have a spoken word album too that's called Butterfly. It's really connected to the book. And in the spoken word album, a lot of those pieces in it are broken up into smaller pieces in the book.
Oh, okay.
So there's one piece called Estamos Unidos, and that one is called We Are United. It was written after what happened at Pulse Orlando in June 12, 2016. I put together that fall afterwards a Pulse Remembrance at a university.
Cool.
And in this Pulse Remembrance, we had a Spanish Mass. And then we also had a space that we decorated with an altar. We had the pictures of the victims hung up. That poem came to me, Estamos Unidos, and it's in the book. It's in smaller pieces, but it's all about love. Like, love is this, love is that. Amor is this, amor is that. And the last line of the poem is, love is our pulse. And it literally came to me like a bullet. Because I could not sleep all night after like decorating that space and seeing all the people. I'm just like, I have to like talk in front of people tomorrow, and I have to like, you know, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? And I couldn't sleep, and I just kept hearing voices in my head. It was just like, love is this, love is that, love is that. I'm like, okay, I can't keep up with y'all. So like that channeling was happening, and I just started in the morning. I just heard the last line. It was, love is our pulse, like a bullet. So I was like, that's the poem. So I wrote a bunch of stanzas, and that's my favorite piece. I think I broke it up within the chapters. It's not like a full, like how I perform it live. It's not like that in the book. But it is in the book.
I love that. That's really cool. That's a freaking powerful statement too. Like that's really cool. To end it off, what is a piece of advice you'd give to anybody out there watching who is exploring the non-binary world within the trans umbrella?
There's no rules. At the end of the day, it's about what feels right to you and what's like calling you in your gut. For me, it was the right choice to take testosterone, and for me, it was also the right choice to get top surgery, and I also got histo. Those steps felt right to me. It's not gonna feel right to everyone. When you're walking through your transition, just keep that in mind. It's like really about what can empower me.
I love that. So thank you so much for coming. It's so awesome. If you want to check out their book, it's all below. Instagram, La Espiritista. Do you have a YouTube channel?
It only has my book trailer, which is 1 minute, so go check it out. It's
okay, so I'll put it below. You can get a little taste, a little feel of what the book's about. You can pre-order the book below. It was really awesome. You're going to be seeing them in some other videos too coming out, so I'm really excited about that. So thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Okay, awesome. Peace.